Every Monday through Friday, find your favorite college morning show here on 107.7 The Bronc, Wake Up Rider.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Strike three, you're out.
What a game. 2 outs, bases loaded, and the home team is down by 3. Next at bat, we have 107.7 The Bronc, known for never missing a hit. Let's see how they fare with the Best Damn Sports Report.
Welcome to the Best Damn Sports Report on 107.7 The Bronc WRRC-FM. Nominated for 8 Intercollegiate Broadcasting Systems Media Awards, including Best College Radio Station. The Best Damn Sports Report is underwritten in part by B2 Bistro and Bar, Route 130 in Bordentown. Enjoy B2's signature elevated yet casual dining for lunch, dinner, drinks, and weekend brunch. I'm Nolan McCaffrey. In the NBA, the Houston Rockets destroyed the Utah Jazz 125-105. Houston dominated the first half, going into halftime up by 21 points. Jabari Smith led the way for Houston with 31 points on the evening.
Again, Kevin Durant and Alfred Şengün both played well against Utah this season. The first shot of the game is Jabari Smith Jr., who, as Vanessa talked about in the open, he has been playing so well as of late, and he strikes first for the Rockets.
Audio presented by the NBA YouTube page. Kevin Durant also added 12 assists, and with the win, the Rockets moved to 35-21. Detroit Tigers ace Tariq Skubal, the 2-time defending American League Cy Young Award winner, said on Monday that he'll make just 1 start for the United States in the World Baseball Classic, which would be in pool play. If the U.S. advances to the WBC Finals on March 17th, Skubal told reporters that he'd lobby to rejoin the team, but only as a spectator. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao will meet again in a rematch on September 19th at the Sphere in Las Vegas. The first fight between the two happened in 2015, and it broke all of the financial records. Mayweather will be 49 at the time of the fight, and Pacquiao will be 47 as the two all-time greats fight one more time. 9-time MLB All-Star and former Cy Young Award winner Chris Sale and the Atlanta Braves are in agreement on a 1-year, $27 million extension that includes a club option for $30 million in 2028. Sale, who is 36 years old, was set to hit free agency after this season, but will remain in Atlanta. In a potential preview of the NBA Finals, it was the San Antonio Spurs who beat the Detroit Pistons 114-103 on Monday. Victor Wembanyama had a terrific game with 21 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocked shots.
Trying to set the tone, and that's what Cade Cunningham is doing on that play.
Wembanyama for 3, good.
And that's how you respond.
Audio presented by the NBA YouTube page. The Spurs shot 45% from the three-point line to Detroit's 19%, which proved to be a big difference in the game. With the win, San Antonio moves to 41-16, just 2.5 games back from the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. When it comes to sports coverage, no one covers it better than our team on the Best Damn Sports Report. Listen live at the top of the hour on 107.7 The Bronc, online at 107.7thebronc.com, and on the Bronc's free Apple, Google Play, and TuneIn apps. The Best Damn Sports Report is underwritten by B2 Bistro and Bar, where fresh local meets casual cool, on Route 130 in Bordentown. Live for Rider University, I'm Nolan McCaffrey.
And it's out of here! And 107.7 The Bronc wins again with the Best Damn Sports Report. To never miss a hit like that one, find it all at 107.7thebronc.com/Best Damn Sports Report. And as the Bronc rounds home plate, we're getting back to the biggest hits and best variety on 107.7 The Bronc.
From the final buzzer to the stat sheet, this is where Rider University sports get the spotlight they deserve. This is the Bronc Box Score. Underwritten by B2 Bistro and Bar. There's a new brunch in town, Bordentown that is, every Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at B2. Lindsay's got the scores, the stories, the highlights, and the hustle from the field to the court to the dugout and beyond. If it happens in Rider sports, we've got it covered. This is the Bronc Box Score, only on 107.7 The Bronc. And now, entering the studio, please welcome our sports director and your host, Lindsay Scarola.
107.7 The Bronc, 107.7thebronc.com. Winner of 3 2026 Intercollegiate Broadcasting System Media Awards. Best on-air pledge right for our first ever radiothon. Best giveaway for Wake Up Riders Morning Bagel Run and Jewelry Spree. And best station poster by Jake Goble for Scream Screen. Guys, you know what this show is. Welcome back to the Bronx Box Score. This spring, As you know, I'll be with you live every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. on 107.7 The Bronc, or wherever you get your podcast afterwards. Last week, we were joined by the director of cross country and track and field, Mr. Bob Hamer. If you missed that, we talked about his coaching style and then the MAC tournament that came up this past weekend. However, it's time to move on to our fifth guest of the spring. Our next guest was named the Bronc's sixth head coach in program history in June of 2017. During the 2025 season, she collected her 300th win while leading the Bronx to one of the best postseason runs in recent history. With her team returning to the MAC championship tournament for the fourth time in the last 5 seasons. Prior to Ryder, she had a successful 7-year stint at Holy Family University, where she raised the standards of excellence for the Tigers, posting a 162 to 147 record. She transferred the program from being locally known to nationally. Prior to that, she was the head coach of Penn State Abington College, where she played a big role in the program's transition from an intramural level team to an NCAA D3 member. Her softball history runs deep, as she was a college athlete herself, being a 4-year star with Lehigh in the middle infield. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the head coach of the Ryder softball team, Davon Ortega. Davon, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing so good. Now, you guys just started your season, but before we get into the season, everything that's been happening, we're going to start about your journey, how you got to Ryder, and how you became the coach and everything. So, Coach, to begin, as I said, we're talking about your personal career, your journey. You were an 02 graduate at Lehigh, a 4-year starter from 99 to 2002. Mm-hmm. During your 2001 season, you helped lead Lehigh to its first ever NCAA regional tournament appearance, facing the Oklahoma Sooners, with Lehigh also picking up their first win in NCAA regional play. How much did it mean to be a part of this history at Lehigh back then?
It was huge. The sport has changed so much, and just got an email actually from my former coach at Lehigh, and they're announcing that it was 25 years ago since that championship. God. So it's been 25 years, and what's huge about it is that was the first team to win a game in the NCAA regional for Lehigh, and also we had to kind of go a different route, make a play in. So it was huge to be part of that history, and now it's kind of contagious. So now it's just expected at Lehigh.
That's amazing. How would you say your own experience at Lehigh ultimately led you down your coaching journey and down this road to where you are today?
Sure. I think it just kind of solidified my love for this game, and just kind of experiencing playing the sport at the highest level, and it just opened up a lot of avenues for me to get to where I am today.
Are there any key moments or mentors that you had when you were back in Lehigh that influenced your decision to go into coaching?
I think obviously just the whole situation. I think just playing at that level and being that competitive, I think there wasn't like one person in particular. I think it was just kind of a collective whole, and just again the deep-seated, deep-rooted love of the game, and that just kind of solidified it.
How would you say your experience coaching at Penn State Abington College differed from when you were at Holy Family University?
Penn State was a challenge. It was a team that they only had an intramural team, just a few players before we got there, and they were transitioning into NCAA Division III. So it was really challenging. I had played Division I. I had been an assistant coach at Division I. That was always kind of the goal. So it was a learning experience for me, to say the least. It taught me a little bit of patience, and I had to kind of break down the game a little bit more. So almost made me even a better coach.
Assisting at the D1 level, how did like you said, you had to break down the game a little bit more. How much of an eye opener was that to see all these little aspects of the game of softball and how more technical it really is than it comes across as? Yeah,
it's huge. It's especially when you're at the Penn State Abington, you're kind of breaking it down where we're going fundamentals and the basics, and then you get to the Division I level and assisting, and you're talking about the game on a different level. You're talking about pitch counts, and you're talking about pitch selection, just a whole different ball game. So,
well, yeah,
literally.
And literally, because it's different levels. Speaking of, Penn State Abington was already like intramural. It went to D3, and then you jumped from a D3 to a D1 in the coaching aspect. So just talk about that transition from coaching an intramural to D3 school to then jumping to D1 and seeing how different it is competitively, how much harder they work, and just what was the difference in coaching that you had to change your aspects on?
Well, I had that transition at Holy Family, so I went to the D2 for a couple years, and I think that's where I really got to kind of put all of that together. And I think so it made the transition to D1 a little bit easier. But I mean, in all honesty, this was the goal all along. So that just kind of learning, researching, understanding the game a little bit more at the highest level. That was always the goal. So it almost made the transition a little bit easier. And now you're kind of at the level where you can recruit those players that kind of have that knowledge of the game already, so we can take it to the next level.
What ultimately led you to go from Holy Family to Ryder?
Like I said, that was kind of the goal all along. It was my journey was a little bit different because there's a big kind of gap in there where when I was at Holy Family, I was a part-time coach. So I was working a corporate job, and then I was trying to coach full-time at college. And I love what I do, and I love coaching so much. And going to an office every day was not exactly, and then going to softball. Yeah. You kind of see the difference. You're like, okay, I don't want to go back to this office. I want to be in an office at the softball, at the school, and I want to be around my players and everything like that. So it really made the jump to Ryder an easy one to kind of remove, because it became, my full-time job. So it was a simple, easy decision.
Was your first season at Ryder, were you a little nerve-wracking, or what, were you just like, I'm going to go right in and come out with a bang?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's part of my personality. It's part of who I am as a coach is like, let's go. Let's get after it. I don't really kind of like to get my feet I think it's optimistically naive enough to believe that, we can be good right from the get-go. And so it was there wasn't any really hesitancy or any nerves or anything. It was, let's just, okay, how do we do this thing? How do we turn this around? So, it was awesome.
And then, of course, like I said, you were a student athlete. So having that background, playing softball all these years, being in that footsteps of, okay, I'm a student athlete at a D1 program, this is what I'm doing. So does that help you as a coach in a whole way, in a sense?
It does. It did early on, I think, in my coaching career, but I also think we're dealing with, again, when I was in college, it was 20, 26
evolved since then.
Yeah, and I think being a student athlete has changed also since then. I think back when I was, in college, things were a lot different. I mean, we actually didn't have cell phones, so so the world in general, so I think it helps because I do understand the time constraints. I understand the pressure and the stresses of being that student athlete, but I've also learned a lot. I learn a lot from my players even now because, I'm a little bit older. So.
I mean, it's still an evolving game, all these.
Sure.
I remember when I played softball, I was little, you had to keep your feet on the mound, and now it's like, you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Which is crazy how this game still evolves. But back to your coaching plans. Did you personally have to make any adjustments to how your coaching plans are, your philosophy switching from that transition period of a D2 to a D1 program?
Definitely. I think also taking over a program that had been struggling, historically, at Ryder. So I had to kind of shift a little bit, but also, it wasn't a big transition because, like I said, I mean, my competitiveness and the person and coach I am, I just kind of pride myself. I'm just a straight shooter and kind of real. And I think taking that into it was kind of the approach that I had, at Holy Family, and that competitiveness and that drive. And it's easy when you just do things naturally. And I think that's what we kind of just kept that same mindset when we got here. And the players at the time really. They bought into it and they were ready for change, so they made it easier on me.
When you saw how this program was struggling historically a lot, so when you got this job, immediately in your brain, what were the ideas going through, like how you wanted to make this program grow to how great it grew within these last years that you've been here coaching?
Yeah, it was really, honestly, I think it was just like get the players that were here to start believing that they deserve to be here, that they could compete at this level, and that they could be competitive, and to kind of know their worth. And I think that when you have years of not as much success, I think that starts to weigh on you, and then you kind of go out and you just expect to lose. And I think so a lot of it was just change the mindset and and let's go. And we can do this. You know, you got here, you deserve to be here. So, you know, I mean, honestly, my first year was, I think it was really great. There were a lot of challenges, but, you know, just kind of focusing on things they hadn't done before. I mean, just a strength and conditioning, you know, like they really hadn't pushed at the Division I level. I don't think that they were working, and really to get them to buy into my mindset of, you know, like, I'm all about, like, you know, just hard work, like just, like you got to get after it.
Yeah.
What you know, you get what you put in, and I think they bought into it so quickly because, you know, it was making them believe like, hey, you can win. Just because you hadn't, you can. So I think, you know, that first year was a lot of fun. It was really great with that group of players too that I inherited.
Which brings me to the next thing. A lot of people, if you grow up playing softball or like you're around the sport, you hear a lot.
Yeah.
Softball's a sport that was made to fail.
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
3 out of 10 is a great thing of the day. So,
right,
coming into this program struggling and like having that mentality that it's a sport that's meant to make you fail, and even if you have a great day, sometimes things will happen. How did you keep that mental toughness within those girls?
Yeah, I think it was. I'm to be honest with you, the players that I inherited, they kind of had that mental toughness. They had that drive already, and I think just keeping them, you know, like motivated and continue working, and I think showing them they saw the progress right away because they were willing. Again, they wanted change. They were ready. So I think when they started to see the progress, we didn't win a lot of games right from the start, but we lost a lot of games by 1 run. And I think when they started seeing, hey, we're not getting blown out all the time, and we can do this, and we can compete at this level, you know, and just keeping keeping them hungry for it, I think that really helped a lot.
How are you able to evaluate whether a player is progressing year to year beyond the traditional stats like batting average, earned run average, how they're doing in OPS, but just seeing them in practice and games physically? How are you able to figure this out as a coach?
I think, well, number one is, you know, a lot of the things that we focus on are the small details, the small details of the game, right? So, like, it's great. Everybody likes the home runs. Everybody likes to see the big hits and the, you know, the strikeouts as a pitcher. But I think it's focusing on those small details. And I like to say that, you know, you come in as a freshman and you're kind of green, you're excited, and you haven't experienced the game at this level. And so you have to put in the hard work. And I think, like, just seeing them work on that behind the scenes every day at practice, seeing in the game, do they improve, right? So when they come in, there's kind of evaluation and assessment, and if they get better each year, and then you know, also by the time they're junior year, again, there's so much mentally in this game, and so by the time they get to be a junior, if they aren't putting in that work, their game starts to plateau a little bit, and you see freshmen or sophomores start to come in and take their role. So that plays into it as well. You know, is okay, like, did they actually work on those small things that they need to, and you know, have they improved? So it's you know, obviously, I mean, it's a direct correlation to their batting average and all those stats. Yes, if they're doing, you know, what they need to do. But I think that that's huge. It's just kind of seeing behind the scenes, like, what they're doing. And again, you have evaluation, you have numbers, you have your technology, and you see all the data. Do they improve? Do they fall off? So
when you're looking at film and reviewing, like, say, for example, if a pitcher or a batter sees something they just have to tweak, if they're dropping their shoulder or they're just not opening their hips all the way, how often do they have to practice this change so that it tweaks their muscle memory and they stop doing this bad habit?
Yeah, every day. I mean, we you know, we look at it as, I look at it as the sport and training in general is year round. It's not just when we're in season. It's not just the small fall season and then you kind of fall off, right? So it's, I mean, it's starting in the fall and it's building up, and you have to work those things every day to get the feel. You know, we talk about muscle memory, but it's also everything in the sport is about feel. And if you don't feel it, a coach can tell you 100, you know, times over and over. But if you don't feel what you're doing, you can't make that adjustment. You don't know what the difference is. So you can watch the video all day long and you can see what you're doing. But if you don't feel what you're doing, wrong or right, you know, it makes it very difficult to make that change. So it's every day, and that's what we tell them. You know, even they go home over the winter break, they got like 6 or 7 weeks away from us, is you got to put in the work. I mean, you have to continue working on those small things, no matter how hard it is, you know. So it's year round, and it is. You got to, you know, we say you can practice with the team, but you got to put in that extra time, maybe 20 minutes. Maybe it's just, you know, keeping your arm nice and loose and warm and stretched, and doing your arm care routine, you know, taking 5, 10, 20 minutes, you know. So it's every day. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it has to be every day and kind of an intentional focus work.
Intentional focus, so that even if you're doing it every day, repetitive, you're just trying to get into it. But you said that they have to have the feel for it. So, like, can you just elaborate on what you mean by they need to feel it instead of, like, just knowing about it?
Yeah, I think they're kind of one and the same, but I think, like, especially our game is so much of a feel, and I think sometimes people are taught, they're being taught or coached at a younger age, they're so technical, and so you have all these coaches telling you, like, step here, your arm should be doing this when you're throwing or when you're pitching, right? It's like when we talk about all these terms, like, front side resistance and your elbow and your release point and all of these things we talk about, and they understand, but sometimes they don't. You have to be able to feel it. In a game, they have to be able to make adjustments on their own. We can't call timeout after every single pitch, after every single bat, And so if I'm telling them what they're doing, but they have no clue. They're just like, I don't know, right? I don't feel that. It doesn't feel that way to me. Then it doesn't matter. And what I always tell them is, I primarily coach with the pitchers here. And then so when I work with the pitchers, say, I'm 5'5". Like, I didn't actually pitch in college. I pitched in high school, but, so I know what it's supposed to feel like, but I know what it feels like in my body. What does it feel like to you? So I can't tell, my 5'9" pitcher or my 5'8" pitcher how she should step or what she should do. I can tell her what it looks like, and I can help her with the biomechanics to kind of fix that. But she has to feel it too. Yeah. So, and the same thing with hitting. If they're kind of swinging and they don't realize that there's not a proper hinge in their hips, that there's not a that they're stepping early. But we can tell them over and over, but they don't feel it in their body. They're not going to be able to make that change. So I'm just very much about, you have to feel what you're doing.
Because everyone's different, and you grew up learning different styles, so you just need to feel it. Yeah. That's honestly awesome. But real quick, we have to go to underwriting announcements, unfortunately. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about the season. And honestly, the past 2 weekends that you guys have had, because you played a lot, you played tough opponents.
Yes.
But yes. Mark your calendars. 1077 The Bronx Excellent Egg Hunt is on its way. Join us on the campus mall on Tuesday, March 31st at 11 a.m. to experience the event the Bronx won Best Giveaway for at the 2025 IVS Media Awards. Don't forget there are 10,000 eggs, 20,000 pieces of candy, and a chance to win so many cool prizes, including our biggest and most iconic prize yet, a 3 or 4 night Royal Caribbean cruise for 2 to the Bahamas provided by Jaws Harry Travel. For more details, including a list of other activities and by sea, go to 1077thebronx.com/egghunt. We'll be back with more The Bronc Box Score after these underwriting announcements on the Prince Review's number 18th ranked West College radio station, 1077 The Bronc.
Eggs. You like them, you love them.
1077 The Bronc has very exciting news. Our video stream is officially live. You can now listen to The Bronc on air, online, and on app. Now watch your favorite student shows live on The Bronc YouTube channel and Facebook at 1077 The Bronc, including The Bronc After Hours, Tri-State Sports Rainbow, High Stakes, The Journey Across the World, The Journey Across the Sports World, and Cliff Notes, and now the Bronc Box Score. Coming soon, Wake Up Riders starts streaming on Monday, February 24th. Keep it tuned to The Bronc to listen to and also watch your favorite student shows now and in the future. Welcome back to the Bronx Box Score on your five-time National Association of Broadcasters Mark Coney Radio Award nominated station 1077 The Bronc. Oof, that was rough, but it's okay. So, if you're just tuning in, I have Coach Ortega from the Rider Club softball. That's not right. From the Rider softball team, the actual D1 team, here with me today. So, as I was saying, we're going to start talking about your season and how it's been going. You guys started off, I think it was in Virginia. I think that's where Norfolk is. Mm-hmm. For the Norfolk State tournament, a 3-day tournament you went to. You guys went 2-3, which honestly, first tournament back, not that bad if you think about it. And they were all close games, so you know that you guys did well and had matchups. So ultimately, can you just kind of recap this tournament and just what went down?
Yeah, I think we did a lot of really good things. I think it was our first time hitting the dirt together as a team since October. So we've been stuck in the cold and practicing in our indoor facility, which is not big enough to kind of run a full defense. So it was good to see to see the dirt and to kind of work through some of the things we weren't able to really practice in our small space. So the offense did some really good things. We were hitting the ball, and it was good. We're a younger team, so it was nice to see us kind of put some things together and start to kind of work to move forward.
What differs from game 1 on that Friday to game 2 against Central Connecticut, where you won in extra innings 10-7?
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest difference was the temperature. So it was so cold. Softball is not meant to be played in cold weather.
Oh, no.
And,
not at all.
By the time the game, so it was in the 30s when we started. It was night. When we ended, it was only 25 degrees. So when we finished that second game. So it was kind of it was just really who was going to be tougher to win the game. It's really tough on pitchers. Pitchers can't feel the ball, their fingers, kind of spinning the ball, that type of thing. So it becomes really tough to move the ball around. And even in general, our bats aren't even supposed to be used in temperatures below 45 degrees. So
because they can break.
Yes. So it really was just kind of, hey, who's going to come out on top? And I think, we always talk about we're prepared. It's been cold up here and it's been cold in our indoor facility. So, we can kind of beat them. So I think really that was kind of the big difference. But also I think seeing how close we were with Norfolk State, I think in game 1, I think it was kind of an eye-opener, okay, let's get a win, right? The goal was to go down and go 5-0. I mean, that's our goal now. Win every game that you can. So, no kind of even though we hadn't got on the field, we kind of talked about that. So what, right? We still play the game the same way. So I think that when we had that close game against Norfolk, then we kind of came out against Central Connecticut and said, all right, now let's put it all together.
From the second game on Saturday against Norfolk, and then the final one Sunday against CCCU. CCSU, once again, what was the one thing that was kind of needed to be able to close that gap? Because it was a 2-run game the whole way, basically. Yeah. And what was just needed to take away both of those games?
Honestly, I think, and it's something we've been talking about even just after this past weekend as well, is we need to have an attack mindset. And I think that we kind of went out and was kind of, okay, let's see what we can do. And I think, honestly, the second Norfolk State game is they were a little bit tougher. They were just grittier. We had, and I think that's what we need to have a little bit more of as a team right now is we have the talent, we're working on things, but, just kind of an attack mindset. And I think in both situations, we're in both games are close. And I think when there's something big, like a home run, then we kind of die off a little bit and before we start picking back up, and you can't do that. We talk about small things. We talk win an inning, when they score 1, you score 2, they score 3, you score 4, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of talking about that, and I think that was one thing that we didn't do. I mean, we went out with the mindset of coming back 5-0. We should have come back 5-0. We're not upset. We learned a lot. We did a lot of good things, but yeah, it's kind of like that fight and that grit.
Do you think seeing another team hit a home run, like that big hit, that the other dugouts loud or yelling, just kind of takes away that fight for just a second? That's why it takes a little bit to pick it back up as the game goes on.
Yeah, it is. We work a lot on the mental part of the game, especially from the pitching side, where we talk about, and what I tell the pitchers is you can give up a solo home run. Solo home runs mean nothing. It's one run, right? And that's okay. But it's when you give up the big shot, the 2 or 3 run home run. And so, we also kind of have a little bit of a buffer. We give up a home run. We don't stand there and watch the girl run the bases. We get the ball from the umpire and we throw it around and we meet. So we talk about eliminating distractions, and that celebration, that kind of that craziness from the other team when they hit a home run it's a distraction, right? And then we also talk about, okay, home run. So the way we kind of bring it back down is understanding that moment was really big, but what do you do after that, right? And what's your recovery? And that's on the pitching and the defensive side and the hitting, really, when you get back in there. But what do you do next? So if you're a pitcher and you give up a home run, if you walk the next batter, right, where did we go mentally? So if we have a good recovery, we bounce back, then we stay in it. So just we focus on those little things so that we can eliminate that distraction and not get carried away with the other team's celebration.
Oh yeah, it's like you said, it's a mental game at the most, because if you do say, you get in your own head sometimes.
Absolutely.
And you think just having all those girls behind you, say you're the pitcher, all the girls behind you just supporting you, like really helps you get out of that your own head at that time in the mound.
Yeah, definitely. Our pitchers know. They have a feeling, and if the team isn't behind them or the team's kind of like, irritated that they just gave a home run, they know. They feel that, and I think it makes things a lot harder. So, and that's the whole point of team also, right, is kind of knowing, like, hey, I'm even though I'm the one who gave up that home run, I'm not here by myself. We got this team, right? We're going to bounce back. We got each other's back, and that's ultimately probably one of the most important pieces. Because
you got a whole field behind you that if you do give up that hit, they have your back.
Yep.
And then from that weekend in Virginia, you had a week until you had to leave, I would assume on Thursday because you're playing on Friday, to go to then North Carolina for the Tar Heel Invitational. So before we get into the Tar Heel Invitational, between that little 4-day week gap, what were the things that were worked on the most before you headed to UNC?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit. We kind of chart everything, so we have a lot of data, and we kind of looked at the analytics and said, okay, where, from a hitting side of things, what are we doing? Are we, we talk about winning 1-1 counts. We talk about getting ahead, on batters when we're pitching. So what were we doing? And that was a big thing for us on the pitching side. We're not working ahead in counts, so we're working harder because we're staying behind or we're starting behind, and then we got to build back up, and that's really tough. So we kind of worked on that from a pitching side of things. We talked about, certain pitches that we should throw or where we're looking to throw and certain pitch counts, what we didn't do, and also looking forward to going to play a team like UNC and a different strike zone that we knew we were going to see when we got there. But and then from the hitting side of things, it was more individualized. Okay, what was each hitter, what were their weaknesses, and the same thing, talking about what pitches were you looking for, what pitches did you hit, why did you swing at the pitch that you weren't looking for, and really, again, to your point, it's more mental. We do the physical work. We only have the 2 days of practice, and so it's kind of again difficult because we still learn on the dirt. So you go from dirt, you come back to practice, and I think we got one day where we got about an hour outside on the turf, but it's so cold. That's all we can, it's kind of more just reps at that point. So a lot of the work is on the mental side of things and kind of understanding, okay, how do I get better at my pitch selection, or, how do I use the rivers when I'm pitching versus the middle of the plate, that type of thing.
And you can only do so much. You can tell them what to do, but it's really on that their mental state to change it in the game.
Absolutely.
However, this past weekend, like I was saying, you went to North Carolina. You traveled to the University of North Carolina, UNC, to partake in their Tar Heel Invitational. Fortunately, it was cut short because you had to make it back before the snowstorm decided to come on Sunday. However, you went against tough opponents. I saw that UNC, they're undefeated, so that was already going to be a tough game. But what was the overall takeaway from this weekend?
Yeah, we got better. I know it doesn't show. I think it's really hard, right? It seems like that's the thing that coaches say is, the work we did, the improvements that we made aren't shown in the scores or the stats, and they really aren't, because there were a lot of positives that came out of it. We knew going in. I mean, anytime you are a small mid-major playing a Power 4 team, especially when they're undefeated and they're basically murdering the ball. You know, it's tough to go up against that, but it's also good to challenge yourself and to do that. And, you know, we don't know, when we go to these tournaments, you don't know who's going to actually be in the tournament other than the host, and you get the schedule, and you also don't know, you know, I mean, we were slated to play UNC twice, and, you know, but we talk about, again, if you let the moment get too big, if you let the idea that you're playing North Carolina, who's undefeated, and that's what's in your head, then you won't be successful. And you know, we did a lot of good things. It doesn't show in the stat line, but you know, our pitcher Fallon Stokely, you know, went out and you know, had a great performance. And a great performance is, we kept the ball in the park. They're big hitters. They hit the ball hard, right? And can we work outs? And if we can keep them, you know, to a base at a time, or, you know, one run here or there, we can stay in it. And I think we did that. And I think, you know, so I think she proved to herself. I mean, she kept the ball down, pitches were working, and she was just really locked in. So we learned a lot from that side of things. And I think from the hitting side of things, we might have been a little bit hesitant, but we also learned, like, we're capable of competing with those teams, you know, and sure, they're phenomenal, they're outstanding, they hit the ball really well, but you can still compete with them, and I think that was kind of the biggest thing for us to take away, you know, from it. And again, we got better overall. You know, we only won the one game, but things that we can't work on when we're here because of the snow and the weather, and again, small facilities, you know, we had to work there. So we were challenged, we were tested on a lot of different things, you know, our outfield, you know, playing balls off of the fence and you know, working on our relay cuts and everything like that. So a lot of communication stuff. And I think we saw a lot of good stuff, and, you know, and I think, like, App State was, I think they're ranked in the mid-major rankings. They're in the top 25 mid-major. So it was good for us. We stayed in that game. I mean, ultimately, I think it was, you know, it was a really good game until the very end. And what it came down to is we just didn't do the basics. You know, when you don't make the routine play, then they kind of take advantage of that. So it was good for us to be challenged like that and to show ourselves and prove to ourselves that we are able to compete at that level. You know, and again, this is setting us up for our conference play. So,
I mean, you're also talking about the weather. We're going to talk about that really quick because we're in Jersey. For some reason, it's been snowing so much. You guys only can do so much in that indoor practice facility in the back because you can't really hit out, like, pop-ups. You can't really hit fly balls. The outfielders can't really do much because there's not a lot of ceiling to go off of. So, honestly, do you think that has some effect on when you actually hit the field because you haven't been on an actual field in so long because of the weather? Yeah,
I mean, it does. It does. I mean, we worked those things as much as we can, like I said, on the turf or even in the indoor facility, and you know, but man, I'm a big believer, and I try to make our team and my players believe that the game is still the game. And so, yeah, you haven't hit the dirt, but that doesn't mean that you forgot how to feel the ground ball. And you've worked the fundamental piece of it, right? So, again, we work the small things. And so I don't like excuses. And so, in my mind, that's an excuse, right? I give them a little bit of credit, you know, because it is tough to go from where you are. You know, a bounce on a turf field or an indoor facility turf is different than, you know, a bounce on the dirt, but or a fly ball, you know, in the outfield. You know, and we try to get them out as much as possible. Even on cold days, we, you know, throw the beanies on and the jackets and say, let's go, warm up, and get out there for 20 minutes just so they can see ball off bat. But, you know, so it, you know, it plays into it, but it's also kind of a, like, who cares? You still, you know, you still know how to play the game. So, you know, it is what it is. And I, again, you know, just not having those facilities, I try to tell the team, like, we don't let it, it's not an excuse, you know. There are other people in this area who are dealing with the weather the same that we are, right? And, you know, the unfortunate thing is that the Division I softball season starts in February, which seems absolutely crazy, but it is what it is. So, you know, you either let those excuses kind of consume you, or, you know, you just go get it and trust in the preparation that you've done, and trust what you did in the fall season.
I mean, it's like you said, everyone else is dealing with this. Like Princeton, they're down the road, they dealt with it. You guys weren't supposed to go against them, but you both had to make it back here before the snow hit.
Yes.
But going back to the Invitational, you said you guys got better. And these scores also show that as the games went on, you did get better. So between UNC to App State, and then you were in it with North Carolina Central University. Just what were the little, I want to say, like, adjustments that were made between each of those games through those days?
I think it was kind of what I talked about earlier, is that mindset of like, like attack, let's go, and we started focusing on winning, so against North NC Central, they jumped out ahead of us because we made some errors. And arguably with some things that we can't really work where we're at in practice. So it was actually good for us to make those errors, to see what we saw, kind of a slap defense and like some faster runners, because then we didn't make those errors after that first inning, right? But it was really cool to see the way we cleaned it up is what I talked about before.
Yeah.
They scored 3, we said, okay, let's score more, and we scored 4 runs that inning. So we finally kind of got that bug of like, okay, let's take it, let's go get it. So just putting everything together. I think arguably as much as we talk about not letting the idea of playing a UNC really overwhelm you, right?
Yeah.
And their facilities are phenomenal. It's a great field. It was 70 degrees when we're playing them, so it's hard not to let that overwhelm you. So I think that once we kind of got past that, then it was like, okay, we are capable of doing this, and okay, now let's take it to the next team. Okay, let's get better the next game. So I really liked that we took that mindset and we just got better and better.
And then this weekend you're heading back to North Carolina again. You get to escape the snow, get to the beautiful weather for the Battle at the Max. Who is hosting this?
East Carolina.
It's East Carolina University. I've heard their facilities actually pretty nice for the baseball team. But you're going back to North Carolina. You're coming into this new tournament before you hit MAC play on March 7th. Unfortunately, you're on the road, but you hit MAC play against Iona.
Yes.
So with this weekend and your past 2 tournament weekends, how has non-conference plays been helping you and setting you up and preparing you for the MAC conference?
I think number one, it's just it's giving us confidence. It's building that confidence, because again, if we are getting better every week and every game, really, it's giving us that confidence. And I think we know that a lot of the teams that we faced last weekend, the teams that we're facing this weekend, they're all really strong teams, and arguably probably most are better 1 through 9 hitters, stronger like overall teams than a lot of the teams in the MAC. And it's not a knock on the MAC, just saying that competition-wise. So it sets us up. We're challenging ourselves, and sometimes preseason you got to take some lumps here or there, some losses. But I think just knowing that, hey, we can compete with those teams. I use the App State as an example. If we can compete with those teams and really stay in it and fight, then we can do some really good things against MAC opponents. So that preseason challenge really sets us up.
You guys did do great things against MAC opponents last season. You made it all the way to the MAC championship, where you went against Marist. So you beat out the Connecticut teams that like to make riders' life miserable. But you beat them out. Yeah. You made it to the championship. You went against Marist. 1-0 game, you lost. But great game. You held them to 1 run. And you guys probably played well in the field. You had great pitching, to the fact where you had the number 1 seed at 1 run. But losing out on that NCAA trip because you're so close, along with all these non-conference teams that you're playing right now, would you say gives you that extra motivational push and drive to be even better than last season? Yeah,
100%. I think we talked about when I took over the program, there wasn't a lot of winning happening, and I think we've grown. And so we spent years kind of talking about rebuilding it, building it into a strong program. And I think we've turned a corner where after our performance in that conference tournament last year, the expectation now is that you're there every year, right? And now we're hungrier. I mean, I think the returning players come back and they're like, okay, we're this close, and we are capable of doing this. And so now, and their challenge has been getting the younger players, getting the freshmen on board, because they weren't there, they weren't a part of it, and getting them to understand, this is what we're going for. So yeah, it was huge, and like I said, I mean, they're so hungry for that championship, and doing big things and getting back there again. So that last year, I mean, that was just kind of like a big turning point for us, I think, as a program.
And then also, that's a not once in a lifetime experience, but it's like once in a lifetime season type of experience, because you have that one chance to make it. So like you said, the returners, they have that extra drive. So do you think that because of this extra drive, they're also pushing the new girls, whether they're transfer or the freshman class, to even drive and be hard and get up to that game
Yeah, and I think that's been we spent in the fall kind of talking about that. And I think trying to get, because we arguably are different. We lost two really strong pitchers, and and we have a very young staff. So we've got two freshmen and a sophomore pitcher right now. So I think trying to get them to understand what it takes to get back there and what they have to do. I think that was a little bit of the frustration with some of the upperclassmen there. Because again, they weren't there. The freshmen weren't part of that, so they don't know. I mean, they want to win, or they want to do well, but you can't know unless you were there, and just that feeling and that excitement and that energy, and being that close, and and having a team like Marist on the ropes. I think that's been the driving force for our program all year.
And of course, I honestly love that, and hopefully you guys make it back there, because I would love to see both you guys and our baseball team make it back there, because you both. Same thing happened, honestly, which is crazy.
Definitely.
But hopefully you guys both make it back. But we have to go underrating really quickly. And then after that, I have some fun little questions to ask you, which if you've seen the show, you definitely know what it's about. However, if you build it, our Rider Bronx will devour it. And introducing the contest that will cement your legacy at Rider University forever. Announcing 107.7 The Bronx first ever Build the Ultimate Bronkwich competition. Be the Bronc who creates Rider's new signature sandwich to be served at Miller's Pub and on the Yo's Cuz Yellow Food Trailer, and will send you and a guest on the Royal Caribbean cruise for 2 to the Bahamas from Josh Hurry Travel. However you slice it, this contest eats Bronx. Go to 1077thebronx.com/Build a Bronkwich for complete details and how you can enter to win. We'll be back with more of the Bronx Box Score after these honoring announcements on your 3-time 2026 IBS Media Award winner for 1077 The Bronx.
Wake Up Rider on 1077 The Bronx needs you.
this spring at 107.7 The Bronc, which means there's a lot of behind-the-scenes content to be seen. Funny reels, station highlights, sponsored trips, and exclusive moments are just few of the reasons why you should engage with The Bronc on social media. Keep up with The Bronc. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at 107.7 The Bronc, on TikTok at 107.7 The Bronc WRRC, and even on Facebook at 107.7 The Bronc to see what we're up to on and off the air. Welcome back to the Bronx Box Score, your 5-time NAB Marconi nominated college radio station, 107.7 The Bronc. Now, I did a fair warning. I did have to change all these questions because I pre-asked her if she saw these movies, and it's okay that you did not. However, Vaughn, we've talked about the season, how you got to Rider pretty much, how it's going, your overall goals from last year, and how the mentality has been going throughout softball. But I've come to the time where now I have to ask you the hard-hitting question. Are we ready?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so.
If you could invent a new holiday, what would it be and why?
Oh boy.
boys, right.
That's a new holiday.
It could be anything in the world.
I don't really know. Holidays aren't my thing. Can you get rid of a holiday?
Honestly, I want to hear this. What holiday would you like to get rid of?
I don't know that I would get rid of.
Not rid of,
but you know, I maybe just change the mindset around the Christmas holiday. I think it's a little bit crazy. It's gotten out of hand where it's like reliant on getting gifts instead of what it's actually supposed to be. But I don't know that I would. I don't know if I would invent a new holiday.
Nothing comes to mind. Not like national. I don't even know. Softball day or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that exists. I don't know. It's like there's like Coach's Day now. I think there's a day for everything anyway. Like, don't we have like celebrate? You can Google and you like find like you know, like there's like Pancake Day or whatever. Like, so I don't really know. Holidays are that's tough. I don't know.
Okay.
Next question. How about that?
Okay. Next question. If you could live in any fictional world, where would you want to live?
Where would I live? Fictional. My goodness, these are tough questions.
Yeah.
This is stuff that I don't know.
You should never think about it.
Fictional. I don't know. Maybe what's the was it like Alice in Wonderland where they like
I don't know what the world's called. Like when she goes through the hat
down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot going on there. That seems like it could be pretty interesting and very fun. That I think that would be good.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then, would you rather bark like a dog or moo like a cow when you're angry?
Probably bark like a dog. I mean, we talk about being a dog all the time. I think that's got a little more a little more toughness to it if you're angry, right? You bark like a dog. Like a cow gets you laughed at.
Gotta keep that mentality. And then, Coach, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on. You've had a crazy last 2 weeks between traveling and stuff, so I just appreciate you for coming out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. But before we go, I still have one very last question. I promise you it's a normal one. What needs to happen this year for you to say, I, Davon Ortega, have not done my job as only a coach, but as a mentor to this group of girls?
Is that they walk away from here feeling successful, whether we win the whole thing or don't, and that they're proud of the work that they put in, and you know, kind of the people that they become throughout the year since we started in September. And I think that to me is big, and also you know, just ending the season with a positive vibe. And I think where all the players, you know, they're so bought in that they're hungry and they can't wait to get back in September. And I think that's a lot of the success. I think sometimes there's, you know, a lot of drama at the end of the season. And I think that this year right now our culture is so good. We've turned things around, and I think there's just so much buy-in. And so I think if that buy-in is still there at the end and everybody's feeling accomplished, and you know, we've defined success on our team and in our program, and that's not just winning the whole thing. That's obviously the goal. But if we don't, how do we still feel successful? And so I think if they accomplish that and they feel good about themselves, which they should, for working hard, then that would absolutely be big for me.
Well, Coach, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck this week.
You.
Not only this weekend, but for the complete season.
Appreciate
you will hear from me for Rider News related reasons.
But thank you very much.
Of course. But not only thank you, but Thank you, listeners, for tuning in and listening to the Bronx Box Score. We'll be back next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Stay tuned for more of the biggest hits and best variety on the Pritchard Review's number 18th Best College Radio Station, 3-time 2026 IBS Media Award winner, and 5-time NAB Marconi Radio Award nominee for College Radio Station of the Year, 107.7 The Bronx and 107.7thebronx.com.
And that's a wrap on this week's rundown of